I'm Lion Runner 777, and welcome back to Reviews and Revisits. Reviews and Revisits both here on YouTube and on Instagram, reviews underscore and underscore revisits, where I also have written reviews and other um, video clips that are played on there. Today, I want to talk to you about 2024 movies and some other pieces of media as well that were overlooked or underrated. So some things that were underrated altogether, and then a couple of things that were just maybe overlooked and weren't on the popular mainstream. And I want to give you some opportunities and some things to go back and either watch if you didn't get to see them, or maybe take another look at them with fresh eyes after gaining this perspective that I have for you today. So let's delve right in. Before we get into it, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Liking really helps this channel to grow, helps the videos to get surfaced to other people to see it and get my voice out there. So I really appreciate your help if you like and subscribe. Thanks. First up, we have the much ballyhooed by some and much loved by others Civil War. If you can see here on the screen, this is my video review of the Civil War over the movie Civil War 2024. And let's take to a little bit of a listen of this. But if I had listened to the naysayers, I'd be pleasantly surprised, really, by what actually transpired on the movie screen, because people have said a lot of things that just are kind of ridiculous. And this is my written review that was on Instagram, reviews underscore and underscore revisit. That's what you're seeing here. We're about to see some of the video of the movie play as well. Not seeing uh, what is being conveyed to us in this film, which I think is a very strong experience. It's an on the ground human story that you get to experience again, kind of firsthand and through the lens of these journalists. And what that does for us is it gives us an opportunity to have this purview that we otherwise wouldn't get a chance to have, because the only other people who could be on the ground, on the scene for all of these things, moving around to these different uh, fronts in the war would be the soldiers, which we also see there. But we're getting the movie through the lens of the photojournalist and through the other journalists who are writers as well. And we've seen you could have this movie be from the soldier standpoint, but again, that would make it a different movie. And we've seen that movie time and time again already anyway. So this was a fresh perspective and look and approach to how we take in um, the wars and the divide of a country and conflict on the front lines. Because the journalists have a reason to be there. Who else would have a reason to be there? The only other people who you could then look at would be just regular citizens or people on the. Yeah, and the citizens would have no reason to be moving around the country, so you couldn't get all these frontline views on the war. So Civil War is one that I would have you take a fresh perspective. People complained about it not taking the right political position on the left side of it, and right wingers said it was politically left when it was. It really is about war itself, or that's what it really demonstrates in the movie. It doesn't take political position. Some people were mad because it didn't. Some people were mad claiming that it did. It was crazy. It's a really good movie. It's not just the greatest film, but it had a viewpoint and a perspective that it gave us, and it was well done craft wise as well. So good film. So the next thing that we want to take a look at is a movie that was also number one at the box office. Wasn't as big of a hit as I thought it should be, and that's Bob Marley, One Love. And also, there were just some commentary that I heard from some people that kind of surprised me from certain quarters who wanted this movie to be an all and everything movie, but it wasn't. It took a section of Bob Marley's life, career, and social political activism and used it as a microcosm to represent who he was and how he conducted himself and to give you a view on his life, which I think was the right way to go, because a plastered together um, full biography on his whole life from front to end would have just been a collage of scene after scene after scene. It would have had to be 3.5 hours, and you still wouldn't have gotten it tonally right by trying to cram everything in. It would have just been this long hodgepodge of stuff. Uh, and I wouldn't have wanted that. So I'm glad as to the way they did do it. Uh, as I note here in my review on Instagram, you always have to be trepidatious about biopics, especially when it's a counterculture figure and what corporate Hollywood will try to do with their imagery and their memory. Though this movie was distributed through Paramount, luckily small production companies are actually responsible for producing the film, including the Marley family's Tough Gong Pictures. And I think that did well for the movie and what it turned out to be. I think it was a great film, and they did give good backdrop on Bob Marley's life and how he came to be who he came to be through flashbacks. But I'm glad they didn't do a movie starting with him as a little kid and just do a sequential movie or do this long thing that tried to cover everything about Bob Marley and the evolution of his music. He started off as a doo-wop singer. Bob Marley and the Wailers. I have a CD of them, and on the CD cover they have box tops before they really became rosters and grew out their dreads, and they're singing doo-wop. It's a double CD of some of that music, that kind of calypso doo-wop music they were doing. To try to go back through all of that would have made this just a distorted film, and it would not have been what it was, which is very well done for my view. So Bob Marley, One Love is another movie that you'll want to check out if you haven't, or take a fresh look at it if you did. In 2024, I declare this the movie Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes to be the one that you need to see in the theaters. And I'm going to play a little bit of that review and essay to explain why. I'm going to posit a thesis to you. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is the movie you should be seeing in theaters right now, above all others. Kingdom continues the sci-fi saga of 2014 and 2017 Planet of the Apes movies. But for once in modern movie making, Kingdom really gets a sequel, threequel, or continuing story in a franchise right, from both the storytelling as well as an overall movie making standpoint. Also, you don't have to be a sci-fi fan at all, nor be in love with the Apes franchise to enjoy it. I'm only marginally a fan of either. This movie is as much for anyone who enjoys a hero's journey odyssey in any realm, or a tale of rebellion and overcoming government or dynastic repression. Along with it being a cinematic wonder of breathtaking atmospheric visuals and realistic looking and feeling humanoid apes, it is this story we want to talk about. Kingdom does what few epic sagas of throwing off government or foreign invader oppression achieve, and that being able to set up an oppression that's strong but not insurmountable, and then more importantly, show a credible rebellion effective, rather than a super being or a tiny band of super beings that take down the entirety of a mass oppressor with their sheer will and magic. These two things, Kingdom having its own self-contained story that builds on the continuity of the past films and without retconning them to make the new story fit, and having a pretty rare credible rebellion, make this a standout film worth supporting in the theaters. All right, so you can't go support it in the theaters or see it on the big screen now, but it still would be a great watch at home for the reasons I just explained. It is the story, and it is that credible rebellion uh, that is at the center of it that really makes it good, and then a great ending that really paves the way for upcoming movies to really be strong, um, to have a continued story. It's really good. I would check it out if you haven't. This next movie comes in the realm of more of being overlooked than underrated. It's basically unrated. It's an independent film called We Grown Now. And here again, my review on reviews underscore and underscore revisits on Instagram. I wrote here, refreshing look at urban life through children's eyes, giving us a different slice of American pie. The opening scene is great, part of which is in the trailer. The kind of reminds me of Crooklyn and the aspect of it being from the point of view of children in an urban landscape and how they relate to each other. Let's take a look at some of that trailer.
In Cabrini Green, it don't matter how old you are, how much money you got,
How big or tall? Or small? What do you call three trees? What? A trio. You ever think about what it would be like outside of here? Wow, this is where we're from. Such a big world out there. So much I want to do.
You're never too little. Set your mind to it, you can do it.
I'm putting my mind to some McDonald's right now and I don't see it on my plate. Me and Eric, we've done everything together.
So that's We Grown Now. And it looks like it's free on Netflix, which I didn't know. I never saw it come up in my feed as appearing on Netflix. But now that I know that, I'm going to give it another watch. And then here's some other places you can get it for just $4. Again, independent film. We want to support independent movies, real filmmaking, besides just the Hollywood slop. This would be a good one to check out and support. So Be Grown Now is a TV show called Them, The Scare on Prime Video. It's a Prime original, season 2 of Them, The Scare, and it was really worth the watch. Them is an anthology show, so you don't have to see the first season to see and understand the second season. They really have nothing to do with each other except using some of the same main actors, but in different roles of totally different people in different circumstances, even though they would take place in the same place, but like 30, 40 years apart. So you don't need one for the other. Them is a show that is very much, especially the second season, in the same vein of Jordan Peele's Us, in that it use um, actual psychological trauma of people to manifest it or personify actual psychological trauma, which then is manifest as some human form or as a monster uh, personified. And that's what you have here in Them the Scare, trauma of these characters coming to confront them in a personified real life way. And so it's really good. I wrote here another hard hitting season that uses netherworld horror to get the core of some human emotions and mental illness from real world trauma. This is the anthology show that I think of Us, the TV series. So definitely check that out. Again, it's on Prime, free if you have Amazon Prime Video. If you have Amazon Prime, you have Amazon Prime Video. If you've never used it, log in and check it out. It's a real good one. Our next feature film is Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F. Well, you say, well, that's not a highbrow, high concept film. Nope, and it doesn't need to be. It's a good, hard hitting, fun film done the right way. And I'm going to tell you more about that from my review that I did early this year. Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F goes hard in new Netflix release. So that was on my page. Let's watch that. What doesn't disappoint is when Axel fully touches down in Beverly Hills, and at a particular point, they play that music. And that music just sets the tone for everything. Let's just listen to it for a minute. Takes you back. It's amazing how a song can so capture the moment. This song really does capture the essence of that 80s high energy, colorful action in the sun, 80s movie, the Jerry Bruckheimer movies. He also did like Top Gun, and the guy who scored this particular score also scored that movie. And that whole energy that is just kind of the essence of that late 80s, early 90s. It's kind of hard to explain it to you if you weren't there, but there's just, if you just go back and watch some of the movies of that time, this sound is the sound of that moment. It really encapsulates it so strongly, and it's a great accoutrement and backdrop to the film to go along with and to underscore what's happening in the film and what and just kind of the good or the strong, I would say, performances that were in the movie, which this wouldn't matter without the music wouldn't matter without those strong performances, but the music with those strong performances really brings it home. Yeah, and that's so true. And Eddie Murphy was especially strong in this movie. Not just that he hit comically, which he did, He was right back to form, but he really carried the movie from a dramatic acting standpoint. He was really good in this movie, and uncreditedly so.
The overall actual plot of the film and what they're trying to figure out is happening with the case that Jane takes with this guy who's accused of killing a cop and looking into what really happens and how Billy and Axel play into that. And they're back up to their old shenanigans again. Good fun film. A way to bring things back around and really top it off after Beverly Hill Cop 3 wasn't well received by most of the film's franchise fans. And I think this is just a good, solid film. I kind of would have wanted, I personally would.
Well, that's Axel Up. It's on Netflix. Check it out to see our next film. So I meant to note earlier in my thumbnail where I wrote they actually did a reboot right. So I got the old Axel Up and the new one. My next film is The Bike Riders. The rap on this was wrong. This movie is beyond solid. It is really good. It's for probably maybe certain kinds of people, but I did my review as a comparison with Goodfellas because of this movie. You'll see Goodfellas in the backdrop of some of the video that will play here. Is kind of a biker version of Goodfellas in a lot of senses. It's not a copy of it. It doesn't do things the same way, but in the same way that movie shows the coming up of the mob, this shows the coming up of the biker gang, and it happens about the same time, just in Chicago, Midwest area, rather than in New York. And based on a true story, so this really happened at the same time that Goodfellas was really happening in real life as well. So let's take a little bit of a listen as to what I said in my review, my video essay dissecting the bike riders as done in the film style of Goodfellas.
And so I think this is one, if you are in to movies about the human experience, movies that have depth, movies that are character driven. This is very character driven, but there is a plot, despite what some of the reviews that I read said. There's definitely a plot there. It really follows this biker gang and its development, and it really shows kind of the progression and the maturation of this crew over time, and it's a microcosm of the biker movement over time. And with the focus on a couple of three of the characters and how they change through the movie, you really get a nice piece, I think. So for the next approximate about 4.5 minutes, you're going to be.
And so now we get to a little bit of the Goodfellas comparison, just a intro piece.
Snarky J said it's like Goodfellas, and I can very much see why. It's clearly filmed in the style of Goodfellas, and that's a good thing, quite frankly. The way in which Goodfellas was filmed is part of what makes the movie so great. It's almost another character in the way both that it was filmed and the way that it was cut. They're both movies about gangsters. Of course, this would be gangsters on different levels. The mafia, very organized, versus street biker gang. But they're both movies about gangsters. The way that they freeze frame things, starting with the very first scene where they freeze frame on the guy getting hit behind the head with a shovel. I don't even know his name yet. I'm actually recording this as I'm watching it. This is already a freeze frame.
So that's a piece of that. Next, we're going to look at City of Dreams, another independent film that, again, is not so much that it's underrated, it's just not very rated at all, as it didn't land on the popular consciousness. But I went to see this, and as I write here on Review and Revisits on Instagram, engaging film about how children's dreams turn to nightmares is definitely worth the watch. From the opening scene, we find that our main character, the adolescent Jesus, is a dreamer. He fantasizes of playing professional soccer to escape his impoverishment of Mexican life. And then what happens is that he gets tricked into going to what he thinks is a pro soccer camp, but turns out is that it's a basically a sweatshop, a work factory where they keep these kids imprisoned, and they are told they're just going to work off their debt. And when they work off their debt from being muled basically from Mexico to the U.S., that then they'll be free to go to the camp, and he's going to become a professional soccer player. And it turns out he's just getting trafficked and used for labor. And you'll see what ensues with that if you watch the film. It's really one of those heartwarming films, but it's also a film that really delves into what this experience is like. And it's not so. It's just not that heartwarming. Actually, it's kind of tragic for a lot of it, because it's a lot of you think that this is going to be the heroic moment when he escapes, but things don't really work out like that. It's a lot. It's very more of a realistic movie for the most part of the movie. Like I said here, the young man in the lead role does a masterful job. The third act, Escape Try, is actually quite entertaining, if you will, as we're taking on an elaborate chase, and the movie culminates with a hopeful yet muted, realistic ending. So just think about checking that out. Let's see where it is on stream. So here it is on streaming. It doesn't look like it's free anywhere, but you have these 5 different places where it's only $6. Again, if we want to support independent film and some filmmaking that's outside of the corporate hodgepodge of filmmaking, this would be one for you to support with a few bucks out of your pocket. So check that out if you like, including right here on YouTube where you're watching this. You could pay $5 to YouTube right here and support that movie and just and take it in for what it's worth. We had a TV show earlier, and next another non-feature film. This is a documentary. This one was really powerful and compelling, as I wrote here. What even reading from that, but as I wrote here, a compelling, well-paced crime story of injustice that's definitely worth the watch. I think this is one of the best ones, or maybe the best one since of this type of documentary that they've had on Netflix since what was that one a couple 3 years ago called um, "The Making of a Murderer," about the guy who got falsely accused of murder in prison. Police didn't like that. He got out and got him accused with another murder and put back in. It all seems very shady. This lady here was accused about lying and staging her own rape and kidnap. And you'll see what happened with her and her boyfriend at the time. If you watch the documentary, it's very good, very well done. It's a Netflix original, so it should still be on Netflix. So I would take a look at that, check that out if it's up your alley. So that's American Nightmare on Netflix. Check that out. And then we're going to stay here on Instagram for the next one, which is Transformer 1. It seems like no matter how many people said at the time that when it was out that this movie is really it, the numbers never really grew very much. We were hoping that the word of mouth would really push people. People were really uh, for trying to get people out. There were some people doing individuals that had nothing to do with the studio, not related to the studio, using their platform to try to campaign to get people to realize that this is a really good Transformer movie. Everybody went to see all the Michael Bay movies, but then wouldn't go see this one, which is actually respectful and in line with the lore and the ethos of the original Transformers. The art was a little bit different. It threw me at first too. It seemed like kitty art looking at it on TV, but actually when you see the art in the theater watching it, it seems very different. I just think that some of the way it was showed on TV and the clips, it just didn't work that way so much, but it doesn't matter. The story is great, the lore is intact, the ethos is great. Uh, so you definitely want to check out Transformer One. It's definitely worth the watch for a solid lore building story and a good time worth seeing while it's still in theaters. It gives the origin of how the Transformers became the mega not the Decepticons versus Autobots, how they started on their home planet and went from just being non-transforming regular robots to becoming the Transformers and divided into those 2 different camps. It's really well done. It's a good time. It really fulfills fulfillment if you're a true Transformers fan, and even if you're not, like with what I said in that review for not Godzilla minus one, but for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Even if you don't know the lore of Transformers, I don't really care and haven't seen a lot of Transformers before, you're not a major fan of the IP, you still can just get with this movie as a standalone movie and really enjoy it. So I would check that. So we'll pick up from my review on that point.
Good on the screen. It's kind of a lighter, cartoonier animation versus kind of the realistic to life type of animation you might have seen with Miles Morales in that version of Spider-Man. So it is more on the cartoon side, but it does still look really good on the big screen, especially kind of the metallic look of some of the uh, robotic machines. And but more to the point, the best part about this movie is it's really faithful to the lore of Star Wars and to the sentiment of what Star Wars is all about and has always been about.
Of course, I meant Transformers. Always Star Wars on the mind. Its lore has been so destroyed. I was just thinking about that concept at the time. All right.
So let's get into that aspect of it. While they changed some of the details of previous Star Wars origins and lore, they keep the spirit of it and they don't fundamentally change the lore. It's still about Omicron. It's still about the original planet that the Transformers are from, and they kind of just jiggle with a little bit the backstory of Optimus or Orion Pax, and they do keep that name. That name has been around. That has always been Optimus Prime's original name. They keep the name of Orion Pax. They keep Megatron's. I didn't remember Megatron's real name. It's like D17 or something like that. Bumblebee is like B27. But he becomes Megatron by acquiring a certain cog of one of the primes, who was Mega something as well.
All right, so that is my review of 2024 movies and a couple of shows and documentaries that I think that were overlooked or missed. And I really think that these are some things that we should take another look at, go support on streaming, make sure they get the numbers and views so that we signal to Hollywood that these are the things that we want rather than some of the other garbage that they keep trying to pump out and shove down our throats. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think about any of these works. Do you fundamentally disagree with me on any of these? And what other ones would you add to the list that were really good 2024 showings that either didn't hit the radar of the popular consciousness or did and were underrated in their appreciation? All right, so I'm Lion Runner 77 again with reviews and revisits on both YouTube and Instagram. Hit me up. And also hit that like button, hit that subscribe, hit the notification bell. We're out on this one. Peace.